This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
Hi, I'm David.
I'm Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series.
So in this episode, we're actually going to go over 7 ways to avoid being ghosted.
Yeah, ghosting is a hot topic, as we said in our last episode. That, you know, people are getting ghosted a lot these days. And I think it's a serious concern for people.
Well, I think it's a serious upset for people, especially if you're being ghosted.
Yeah, and we've been ghosted and we laugh, right? Because we've come to a point in life where we can laugh at most things that can occur to us and do occur to us, even the upsetting things. But it actually is a very upsetting thing for people, just being left completely excommunicated.
Yeah, I think some of the things we said in the last episode as well is like the impact of ghosting on people. And I think that's actually something that, because we did some research, we do our research before we speak on these podcasts. We know what we're talking about.
We speak to the people.
Yeah, the experts, the Ghostbusters.
Ghosting experts, the Ghostbusters.
Yes. They weren't the right ones. Tried to get us to turn to Christianity and stuff. It was the wrong...
Jehovah's Witnesses.
The wrong kind of ghosting. No, what it is with, the impact that, either being a ghost, someone who's ghosting people, or being ghosted on. And actually, just before we get into this one, to re-clarify and redefine, but define again what ghosting means for anyone who didn't hear the last episode or has never heard of ghosting, has just crawled out from under a rock. Because ghosting's been going on for a while now.
Yeah.
So ghosting is the idea that when you've been on a date with someone, and it could be like, maybe only just starting from a few messages, or it can extend to having dates with someone, and it can extend to having been dating someone for months or years. And the idea is at some point they just disappear without a trace. You can't find them. They're not getting back to you. Yeah. Ghost.
Gone. Nothing.
Yeah. So that's what ghosting is. And in the last episode, we covered what it is, why we believe it happens, what we've seen, what we've experienced in our own lives, having been ghosts in a few circumstances. Only a few. We're not bad.
Maybe I've done. I think I've done a bit of ghosting, and I've been ghosted a fair number of times. I think now I can't even remember actually a lot of them. I've just put them to the back of my memory with the rest of the memories I don't want to think about.
Well, that's the thing as well. Yeah, with the whole ghosting epidemic. It can happen so often that for some people it's just like it just becomes normal. And actually we made an argument for why it shouldn't be normal, and it has quite a detrimental impact on society. So if you're interested in finding out why that is, go and check out the last episode, number 10. Thanks, Dave. He put up 10 fingers so I remember. So in this episode, though, we're going to discuss, more importantly, if you have been ghosted or now want to avoid being ghosted, the 7 key ways to avoid being ghosted.
Yeah, so the first one, if you're going to have a pen and pad and you write this down, but the first one is going to be about being curious with the person that you're talking to, like open-ended, non-generic questions, because we feel from our extensive research that the biggest reason for ghosting happening is that there's a lack of connection. People just don't feel that connected to the person they're talking to. Like, obviously, if this is just, you've had a few messages with someone, if you can start getting past and not be just going, hey, how are you? How was your day? How was your night? What did you get up to today? Because that's just not that interesting for people. Like, be curious about who they are as people. Like, what makes them tick? Who are they? And if it's, you've been on Tinder and you've been swiping, look at their profile, read about them, and ask like an informed question about them. If you don't know that someone is climbing, you don't know anything about climbing, go, hey, I see that you like to go climbing. Like, how long have you been doing that? And it's just showing an interest and a curiosity about them, and find out, when they started, for instance, something like that.
And the key thing here, which is really important and can be overlooked in what David is saying, is that not just women, but especially women, they like to know that you're interested, and if you are just asking, vague questions about the day and how's a day, but then it never goes beyond that. And then on one hand, the conversation lacks depth.
Yeah.
And so then, it's just not that interesting. But then also it's just like you have no curiosity into their life, into what they're, and kind of trying to build a picture. The more you know someone and the more you share yourself with someone, then the more connected you are, the more you know about each other. You think about like any friend you ever made in the past, it's like it would go beyond just hellos and whatnot. Whereas when you're in an office, for example, and you meet someone, you just in a workplace scenario, there are people who are your friends in the office, and then there's people you just say hi, bye to.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that Dave was talking about here is it's like, well, the people you say hi and bye to, you don't actually establish a good connection with them.
Yeah.
And so by being curious and delving deeper below the surface and showing, more importantly, I think a very key highlight of what David said there was about paying attention to what's on their profile, reading, and then saying it back. And it's the same for verbal conversations, listening and then saying it back. It's just a great indication that you're interested.
Yeah, and it's also something we touched upon in one of our other episodes, which was about kind of the keys to a great conversation, which is episode 5, is that, you need to listen. Like, obviously we've talked about profiles and stuff, but if you've been on a date or two with someone, actually be really curious and interested in them as a person and what they're about. And also expressing who you are as well, so they have a really honest and possible opinion on who you are and what you're about in life, instead of feeling like you need to be reserved and hide certain aspects of who you are, because that just shows up in your relationships. If you're not showing up and being vulnerable and honest, it shows up in the way you're building connection with people.
Cool. So the second way in which to avoid being ghosted, and this one is crucial, and a lot of guys will be like, well, how do we do this? But it is being non-needy. And what we mean by this is avoid being over eager and like really trying to grab the other person's attention and just feeling like constantly they're having to respond to you, or you're like that you don't have anything else going on. And so some indications that you're being needy include replying too fast, and expecting that the other person is replying to you all the time. Yeah,
and this is an interesting one, because I know there's like schools of thought about how quickly you should reply to a message. Should you reply, when you're free, or should you replying, should it be the same length of time that they reply to your messages in? Like, I can really be honest about how I used to be. I used to stick by a rule of twice as long as that person took to send me a message or reply to my message. And this was something I used to tell people. I remember telling AJ this many years ago, but actually I've done away with that because it doesn't really work for me now in my life. It's more a case of that, it's just whatever works for me. But it's that energetically a lot of people are sitting by their phone, waiting for someone to reply to them. And then as soon as they get the reply, that message, they're instantly getting back. And it just shows that you're just very invested into this person who potentially you don't actually know very well, if you've only just met or you've been on a couple of dates, over the other things that are going on in your life.
Yeah, and what it communicates, I feel as well, like subconsciously, is that you don't have anything else going on. Like that's that's something that we'll get a bit more into as well in the next point. But also about being non-needy is also, there's also this aspect of like rushing too quickly to want to create a relationship, to feeling, it's kind of, well, I say the rushing is, it's actually where it comes from is a scarcity mentality. So the scarcity of like, oh no, like I'm not gonna be able to like have this again or meet another person like this again, and feeling somehow like without this person that you're somehow incomplete. Yeah. And already again, like without knowing the person, you're creating a kind of negative tension here for like this whole interaction. You become almost grabby, with the person, and you're as soon as that tension arises in you, you're like, okay, I don't want them to leave. So you kind of lock two hands onto them instead of opening your palms and letting them be there and be present with you. You're just trying to stop them from getting away because you're concerned about them leaving. Yeah, and if these things sound easier said than done for you, I totally understand. I've definitely been in a place where, I felt a bit like, any opportunity is golden, and without it, I'll be nothing. But it is something that we'll cover in the next few points. So the next point is to avoid being ghosted is having a life.
Yeah.
And what we mean by this is like spending time with your friends, having friends, spending time with your friends, having things that you do that is totally like your own. Maybe like you have a hobby, or you're into fitness or whatever. And this aspect is actually like when David was talking about earlier about having a rule about I'm only going to reply to a girl twice as long and wait twice as long as she did to reply. You could get into that remit, or you could actually have a life which actually keeps you busy, which means that you have other things going on, and then you're not being needy because you're living your life and you're putting yourself first in a way that you're actually enjoying your life. And see what that communicates to someone. If someone says, "Oh, why didn't you get back to me?" You say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was actually just busy in a meeting. There's a business I'm working on, or a project I'm doing, or I was climbing with some friends, or down at the beach and we had no reception." That's way cooler than sorry, like I was, I don't know, just in the toilet.
I was having a sleep. It's this thing, and I think this is the one thing that we're really, really big on when it comes to dating, is that dating isn't just about dating, which is what the title of our first episode, but it's really, I feel really strongly that actually dating is about your life. And I think a lot of people really hate that when they hear that, because it sounds like a lot of work, and they're like, "Oh, I just want to hear some tips and tricks and things I should say and do." But actually, it's your dating life is an expression of your whole life. It's like if you're just, sitting at home eating popcorn, not doing much of yourself, then when you do have someone that's messaging you, or you've been out on a date, you're going to be desperate to see them tomorrow, because you don't have much else going on for yourself, right? Or the day after, and constantly a week might go by, and for you that might feel like a really long time between dates with this person. But if that person's got a whole life going on, they've got multiple hobbies that they're doing, they have a job that they enjoy and that actually takes up a lot of their time, an active friendship group, and various events that they may be kind of going to learn and educate themselves, a week for them is goes very quickly. So you've kind of got a mismatch there in kind of time and how time appears for you. So I think this is probably something we probably do a proper episode on, about how to really create a life that you love, which is a big topic. But that, having a life, having friends and people around you that you like seeing and you enjoy spending time with is just so important. And if you feel like you're lacking in this area in life, I'd say just pick up something new, anything, something new that you've not tried before, and get into it. Spend a month or two doing it and go, okay, I like it, I don't like it, pick up something else after that. But just kind of challenge yourself to build on who you are and take on new challenges and build your confidence. And you just find that this might strange coming from dating advice, but actually this will build up your dating kind of ability and potential much more than any pickup line or technique that we could give you.
Well, yeah, and on that point, actually, you mentioned to me earlier, Dave, about a girl who's told you this guy she'd been dating, and initially it was really cool, it was really fun in the first couple of dates. Yeah. But then what happened over time, like she realized that it was the same thing every single time. Yeah. She would meet the guy. They would either meet at the guy's place, they would have some takeaway, they would watch some Netflix, and that would be the date. Yeah. It was like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, and he was fun. It was like, the dates, it was cool. The first few times it was fun, he was interesting. But actually it got to the point where she realized that a few dates in, it was like, well, actually, if this is all it's going to be, this isn't going to go anywhere. Right. And boom, you be ghosted right there and then, right?
Yeah. And you potentially would think like, I don't know what happened. We had some good times together. It was fun. And then, she just disappears. And as we discussed in the previous episode, that in a lot of cases, what it boils down to is, yes, there's a problem in the relationship or in the interactions, but neither party is willing to actually confront it and deal with the conflict. They'd rather just leave it and just disappear. Yeah. So if you don't have a life, and by having a life we mean having things that you enjoy doing,
an active social life, I think, is a good,
but things that you're engaged in and you're up to. Like as we say this, I didn't really think too much of it, but my girlfriend said to me quite a few times, what she likes about me is that I'm engaged and stuff, and that when we go out and do stuff, that I'm engaged. And I'm just like, but of course, but now that I think about it, that's what she's reflecting to, because she's actually thinking about other guys she's dated where they haven't been that way, or they've been more stagnant, perhaps. I'm presuming here, right? But in essence, it's like we're saying here about this guy who, it's just the same date. It's like Groundhog Day sort of thing for our American listeners, and so it's really, so by having a life, it's actually colourful, it's exciting, and really there's something else that I just want to touch upon. Like, this is your life. Like, if you're not excited about it, then like, who's going to be excited about it?
And you can't expect that you're going to meet someone they're going to make your life exciting.
Oh yeah, that's the worst.
You know, I think as a man, it's something I think I've kind of experienced with women, is that you meet them and you're like, okay, so what do you do with yourself? And I've got quite an active life outside of just kind of my work. You know, we make this podcast. I go to multiple different events that of interest to me. I also quite active with my photography as well. I'm a photographer, and these are all the things I'm doing on a week-to-week basis because I really love them. They have interest to me. But if I meet someone and their week kind of trundles by, and that's to be rude, and it's like maybe they spend a night or two seeing their friends and then the rest of their evenings are spent sitting at home, I realize that maybe that might not be so compatible for me, because they're going to always feel like I'm doing stuff and I'm not including them because I'm busy. But if they've got nothing else to do with themselves, it's like, where are you growing as a person, you know? And if you really want to be finding the sort of man or woman that's really kind of exciting, or that sort of, you know, that high level type of relationship you want, you always have to remember, it's like, what are you bringing to the table? What do you bring to the table, you know? Someone's not going to complete you. You need to come with a life. But yeah, we've totally gone off topic here, but this is a massive issue.
Well, yeah, I think that to sort of summarize this particular point, it's about having something that's engaging. There's two sides to it. It's being engaging and also being engaged. And like, if you're an engaging person, then you're an exciting person to be around. But also for yourself, that you actually have things to focus on that's not just a relationship.
Yeah.
And this other person. And like Dave said there, like expecting this other person to fill a void in your life.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what to do with yourself. And which is obviously, as I'm saying this, that's kind of like an obvious thing that wouldn't be so fun for someone to be around, and they might end up ghosting you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can feel, and you know, people can feel it. And it's not the easiest thing to kind of tell someone like, oh yeah, so we went on a few dates, but actually I think your life's really boring and shit, and I don't really want to see you again.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, watch out for that one.
Yeah.
And the next thing is, this is probably more relevant for, this is point 4, sorry. This is probably more relevant for, you know, people who haven't necessarily met up, or maybe met up once or twice, is pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
Like, this is something we've got into now with this texting. And I know I'm super guilty of this, where you meet a girl and you just texting back and forth. Pick up the phone and call, because I don't know. I know that I'm much better when I'm talking than I'm texting. I probably text and I sound like I'm about a 10-year-old child, whereas I feel like I sound like a mature man when I'm talking. But pick up the phone. Again, it creates more of a connection when someone hears your voice, and they can hear that excitement in your voice when you're having a conversation about your awesome life, over you kind of texting and going, yeah, I had a great day today, I did this, and this. It's just like a real energetic difference in that.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting thing, because we, like Dave said, we don't often talk on the phone these days. And in terms of communication, I think words only make up something like 7%. And words, and when we say words, I mean the literal words. And then everything else in your communication, I mean, if they could see you, you know, your body language would be included. But even in your voice, the tonation, the tonality of the voice, the excitement, the expression, it all adds to the communication. And all of that gets lost in text messages. You have to use emoticons, and things get misconstrued and misunderstood. So it's by picking up the phone, you actually make a good connection with people, and you're actually sharing more of your personality.
Yeah, I think it makes a huge difference. It's something that, you know, I overlook sometimes. It's probably very few people I pick up the phone to and call, really, but actually it just makes a huge difference in the ability to bring two human beings together.
Yeah. Okay. So point number 5 on this list is paying attention to the signs, and this is because this is something that if you've been in a relationship for like 3 months and then you're ghosted by someone, then guarantee that there is some signs that you have not been paying attention to. Now, I can't tell you exactly what those signs are. There are like a million different things that could be happening in any given scenario, but I can guarantee there are things that you've overlooked in respect of, you know, the interaction between the two of
Communication.
you. Yeah, the communication.
An avoidance of, and this is also is like an avoidance of having certain conversations as well. And I would actually throw into this one, signs is if you're overly judgmental. Because if you're very judgmental as a person, you're judging other people outside of you. You know, the person you're dating, if they've done any of the things that you've judged other people for, they're going to feel that you're going to judge them as being bad and wrong. And they won't not want to really admit that they've done these things. And then poof, you got ghosted, you know? So just, I thought there's always warning signs. And as humans, sometimes we can really ignore the obvious. Like, this is something we often say to each other is like, you know, pay attention to the obvious things, the absolute obvious things in front of you. Don't assume that what's obvious everyone sees, because it's not obvious otherwise. It's the signs are often there, and just, you know, be in communication with someone. If you see that you're seeing them less and less over a period of time, be willing to have a conversation. Go, hey, like, we haven't been seeing each other very much recently. Is everything okay? And instead of just going, okay, they're really busy, let's just leave them to it, because actually that's going to move to a kind of petering out or a ghosting.
Yeah, and yeah, like Dave said, like the obvious is also if you feel a certain way, like something's off, and you're just ignoring that feeling. And I know this can happen quite often. It's like people don't, again, it goes back to the idea that we said in the previous episode about avoiding conflict. Like, you can see something's not right, but you don't want to discuss it. You don't want to talk about it. Maybe, you know, it's a problem with your own self. You just don't want to admit it. And then, you know, and then you're wondering, or you're surprised when it all goes south, right? So it doesn't work out. So this is, it seems like an obvious one, but actually it's not so obvious, because so many people, either they choose to believe that it's not as bad as it looks, or it's not important. But then, you know, in the end, the reality of the situation is what it is. So to avoid, you know, this happening to you is by actually, you know, being engaged. There's a great saying around relationships, and I know this is easier said than done, but the saying is, if you always do what you did at the beginning, then there'll never be an end. And often at the beginning of a relationship, people are engaged, they're focused, they're aware of the partner, you know, they're excited, and then as relationships go on, they, you know, there's kind of like, you know, a comfort sort of thing that creeps in, and
becomes,
you know,
expectation.
Yeah, you know,
they're taking for granted.
You know, even in our own health and appearance, we often, you know, don't go gym as much. We relax. We're not like, you know, we don't dress up to go out.
Yeah.
And so there's a myriad of things, and the longer the relationship, the more people tend to just relax and be like, well, it's okay. I don't need to try. I don't need to bother. But you see, this creates a sense of a lack of excitement.
Yeah.
And this can all lead to, I mean, this could just lead to a breakup in general, let alone being ghosted, but definitely. Because
this was something we were talking about actually earlier, was that really ghosting is just a layer on top of a breakup, right? Of some sorts.
Of course.
Where people just excommunicate someone without warning. So it's almost like most of the reasons for ghosting really are just any of the reasons that someone would break up with you for, but they just don't bother to tell you.
Yeah, there you go. So number 6 is being an authentic person, and being someone who values authenticity and realness, and like does not put up with anyone or any woman in this particular case who enjoys playing games. Really kind of paying attention to someone's behavior, and not tolerating behavior that you just don't accept. And, you know, so this will be someone like who's manipulative, or like who lies perhaps, and you can just tell that they're lying. And it's and when I say that you can tell, I mean like it's an obvious thing that, you know, like they're calling white black or something like that. I don't know. But the point is here is like it's an obvious thing, and, you know, it's just like this is where I think a lot of people, when they're not willing to deal with conflict, they can really fall foul into this environment because they're just not willing to have the boundaries of what they're boundaries. Yeah. So like what you're willing to accept and not accept. And it can be as simple as, timing. If someone's always late or they're making promises and always breaking promises.
Yeah.
And it's just like, the obvious things. I mean, I often advise women on this. It's like, but it's the same for men. And it's like, don't just listen to what someone says. Judge someone by what they do.
Yeah.
Because that's actually what's happening in life. So when I say be authentic, then you yourself, hold yourself to that authenticity that you speak openly, because what you put out is what you will receive. So if you keep finding yourself being ghosted, then I guarantee there is something about you that you're allowing this to occur. You're accepting these people and you're allowing these people into your lives, and you're not putting up the boundaries to say, look, this is unacceptable behavior. Or you're not valuing your own self, or you don't love yourself enough. And actually, that's something we'll get to in a second.
Yeah, but there's an inauthenticity here, right? Where if you're kind of starting your relationships off and you're being really overly holding yourself back, where some people are just kind of playing that game of, being timid enough and coy and, playing games like that, you create that dynamic of those sorts of games, right? I'm trying to think of the word. It's not really coming to me right now. Where you're acting unnecessarily mysterious and aloof, right? And that's kind of been this kind of way of dating. It's like, oh, don't be too much, don't be too straight, because men don't like women when they put too much of themselves out there, and men need to be a bit aloof because women like that mysteriousness. And actually, that's not all completely true. I think there's an element of truth in there, but I don't think it's completely necessary. It just leads to a lot of inauthentic relationships where there's not lines of communication and honesty and openness.
So the final one, number 7, and this is for all of us, and it's a really powerful mindset, is to actually just surrender yourself to the possibility of ghosting occurring. And what that means is being open to that. It's something that could happen. It's not what you would want to happen, but it could happen. Now, this may sound like a weird thing, but where this idea comes from is from warriors going into battle. They know that they could die. It's not what they want to happen, but it could happen. But you see, if they were to go into battle and to think that they were going to die, then they're not going to be free. They're not going to be open. They're not going to be present.
Oh, you mean if they were going into trying to avoid dying?
Well, I'm saying, like, if you're going into battle, if as a warrior, if you're going into battle, then there's obviously a chance that you could die. Yeah. But then if we remove the whole battle dying thing, perhaps let's put it to another way. If you were going into a game of football and you were the modern day battles, so if you're going to play a game of football, there's a chance that you could lose. Yeah. Right. But now, if you go into the game of football and you accept the idea that you could lose, but it's not what you want to happen, but you accept it,
and also you accept that you could win.
It's an outcome that could occur, right? The point is here is you're not going in focused, just like it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, because you see, whatever you focus on, you will end up acting in that particular way.
And you draw it to you.
Yeah, whether consciously or unconsciously. And so often we do this in life where we are so concerned about things like, for like to give a different example, where people are like, oh, this girl, she cheats on people, or she's a liar, and then you go in with that mindset that women are like this or whatever, and then what happens?
Yeah, that's all you find.
Yeah. And without realizing it, you are the one that are acting that way because you become overzealous. You're like, where are you? Who are you talking to? And you actually push people away. Yeah. And so this is what I'm talking about here, is you can avoid that mentality or that unconscious behavior by actually accepting that it could happen, but it's not what you want to happen, but you're just open and you're going to go forth and live your life.
And that's not where you put your focus.
Yeah.
You're open to it going either way. It could, in this case, you could be open to dating someone that they break up with you or they ghost you, but equally you're open to it being amazing. Yeah. But your focus is not like, oh my God, let's try and avoid them ghosting me. What can I do to avoid that happening? But actually, like, what can I do to make this amazing?
Yeah, you're actually just present to all the possibilities. It's like anything in life, right? You could apply this to business. You can apply this to investments. It's just like, it's like whatever. You can just apply it like any, because the thing is, you never know. There are like, so just as an example, like in my family, I know of like some aunts and uncles who I've got some relatives rather, who they were married for like 40 years. And when they first met, they were like deeply in love. Yet 40 years later, they got divorced. And it's not a judgment on them, but it's like neither of them could have known going into that marriage and into that relationship, and even after having children, that 40 years later, like that's going to happen. But it's just something that can happen sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to live your life in constant fear and this and that, then you're going to constantly be irritable and guarded and perhaps distant and aloof, because you're just trying to protect yourself, rather than actually being present and loving, and then actually giving something a chance to grow.
Yeah. Bring that presence to your life and focus on what you would love to happen, instead of being scared of what you don't want to happen. Makes a huge difference.
So the final one is our bonus.
A bonus.
Because this was supposed to be 7, but we had a bonus one, and I actually alluded to it by mistake earlier. And it was about learning to love yourself. And this is really key for anyone who's like, really hung up about being ghosted on, or having that's happened to them a lot. It's really learning to appreciate who you are and what you have to give, and just basically loving yourself, to the point that it doesn't concern you how other people see you or their opinions of you. You know that you've worked on yourself. You go through some of these points and you have a great life, you enjoy your life, you're doing things, you've got friends that you're hanging out with, you've really created a nice life that you can enjoy, and you're doing things that you enjoy, and you're out there. So then you're not hung up about any one particular person or who comes and goes in your life, because you're just like, I'm cool, I'm great.
Have a good life. And it's even down to, loving yourself is it's a big term that's banded around these days, but it's little things. I think that's like doing things that you enjoy doing, and treating yourself well. It's like, say for instance, you're at home, cook yourself a nice meal. Instead of just getting some shit takeaway or just putting something, really base together, cook yourself a really beautiful meal, because it's that self-love, right? Doing the things that you would do for someone else that you love, but just do them to yourself. Take yourself to the cinema. I think Tom Hardy has a great quote, and he's like, I'm dating myself. I take myself out for dinner. I take myself to nice places. I look after myself. And it's like, he's right, and I get it. Like, it's not always that easy to look at yourself and go, oh, I love who I am. And, we're not sitting here saying that we're at the pinnacle of loving ourselves, but equally, I go out of my way to go and do things I really enjoy. I wake up early some mornings and I do yoga just because it's great for my body and I feel great afterwards. It's like looking at those sorts of things, those healthy things you can do for yourself that make you feel great. Like, it might be just going and, I don't know, getting a pedicure, or getting a manicure, either men or women, because I love a pedicure. Or going to get a massage, but it's giving yourself the sort of love that you would like to receive from someone else, and not always kind of looking externally for it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, and see, the effect and impact that has on your life is you enjoy your life, you radiate this happiness, and other people are actually more attracted to you because you're just chill and you're not asking for anything from them. You're not looking for that love or being needy, and seeking that from another person. You're just totally okay and cool with your own self and being by yourself. And that really, this is it. It's like David said, it's actually quite a big topic in its own way, but it's just something that's so foundational to dating and having a cool life. Because when you meet someone and you're on a date, then who you're sharing with them is what they see. And if you're someone that isn't engaged in their own life and isn't treating themselves well, that's what someone's going to see.
Yeah.
So, but then if you are, then that's what someone's going to see.
Yeah.
And they're going to be intrigued. And I can guarantee you that the majority of people out there are not doing it. Like, so that, I mean, there's even memes where there's like someone holding a jar of happiness, and then the other character is like, where did you find that? And they said, I made it myself.
Yeah.
And it's just this idea of creating your life, doing things, and you have to make it. Life isn't necessarily going to be all sunshine and rainbows, but it's like you have to make it, you have to steer it, you have to find the things that you enjoy. And if you don't have it, then figure it out. Like, I've spent most of my life figuring out what I enjoy, gone around in circles.
Yeah.
and I still find more things that I enjoy. And and things that I like doing, engaging life in different ways. But the point being is, like, if I didn't love my own life and love myself, even loving life itself, then I wouldn't be so engaged.
Yeah, and there's so much. I hope we can keep going on about this one, but I feel like there's so much greatness in life, and if you look at life as just being hard and tough and boring and yada yada yada, that's what you're going to get more of. And remember, the captain of your life is you. If your life's like that, it's your responsibility to change it. No one else's. No one's going to come into your life and bring you the sunshine and rainbows. And we think this is the biggest topic, the biggest reason how to kind of avoid being ghosted is really having that love in your life. And it also means if someone comes along and they ghost you, you might not even really notice, because you enjoy yourself so much and what you're doing. It's like, okay, cool, I'll carry on doing what I was doing before. Life's great.
Cool. I think we've pretty much covered a whole plethora of different ideas, but really foundational ideas for dating in general, and in terms of ghosting, which would really help you to avoid that. So yeah, let us know what you thought, and also, are there any other steps that you take to avoid being ghosted? Have you discovered? Because it's a really big topic, and we'd love to hear from you to find out like what's going on for you and what works for you.
And was there anything you feel? Is there anything you think we're completely wrong about? We don't know everything. Well, as we said in our first episode, we're just two guys who have been dating coaches and are still kind of
we only have thousands of hours of experience, but we don't know everything.
Yeah, we're just here kind of open up a conversation around these topics. If there's anything you think we've completely missed or we're wrong about, we'd love to hear about that. And where would they get in contact with us, AJ?
I think the best place would be by email, which would be hello@authenticdatingseries.com, or if you're on Instagram, which most of you are, it would be @authenticdatingseries. You can find us there, and you can message us in the DM or drop a comment on one of our many posts. We've also been posting short articles, especially around the topics that we discuss in these podcasts, just to give more information and put more stuff out there. So if there's anything you want to find out more about, you can hit us up on Instagram or on the email. Yeah, and we're going to start to take in some guests over the next kind of few more podcasts, because we would really like to open it up to different people to talk about some of the topics that they know about really well, that we don't know so well. And also some of the really interesting people we know who've created amazing lives and created great relationships and are about kind of connecting people. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening, and we will speak to you and hear you hopefully soon. Ciao.